Hello, everybody, and welcome to our third session of the Food Addiction 911 class. This is our last session, unfortunately, but it doesn't have to be the last time I see you. Remember that the 7-day program is starting this coming Saturday, January 18th, and that you can sign up on a pay what you can basis. So any amount is acceptable, and I want everybody to benefit so that there are no more excuses, and money sometimes is one of them, but now you can regain your health, you know um, get rid of those cravings and get going, get back on the wagon, and have a wonderful 2025. So if you like to register later, I'm going to put the link here. So what we're going to do today, first of all, I want to show you the handout that you will be receiving. And let's see. One, two, three. Okay. Okay. I'm just going to show you the handout like this. Okay. So this is the front. Um, the first page talks about dopamine. Okay. And the three things that dopamine does. And then where we get that dopamine boost. Okay, so where do we get that? That's important for us to know. It's going to be part of the fight. It's going to be part of the strategies. Salt, sugar, and fat, or fat, sugar, and salt. And we could add flour, processed white flour. So we talked about how none of those substances are combined in nature. All of the food that we are made to eat, that we're supposed to eat, that we eat during our 7-day program to detox and reset our bodies, is food that does not combine that. We have to get it in our head that that is not real food. That is food that has been made in a laboratory, and it causes us a lot of pain and a lot of trouble because we become addicted with these huge amounts of dopamine release. So as long as we know, I do believe that knowledge is power. As long as we know what we're craving, then we can start fighting it. Okay. So, uh, what about the dopamine levels? Well, this is what we're going to talk about today. It's very enlightening when you realize that once you start eating the ultra processed foods that combine salt, sugar, flour, and fat, you get high, and then your body does adapt. So then it goes down to a lower level, but you need more of those substances to calm you down. And then you get neuro adapted to that, and you need more or more often. And since dopamine is wonderful, does a great job at creating memories, then we know exactly where to get that from. Okay, so then we're going to be learning how to go back to a normal dopamine level. Okay, and then we'll talk today about 6 tips, okay, to overcome food cravings. So you're going to have this with you. You can print it like I did or keep it electronically. Then we already talked about fiber. Uh, Once you start getting your 40 grams of fiber a day or more, fiber is magical in many respects because, of course, it regulates your stomach, your bowel movements. It regulates your sugar level, your glucose levels. It also detoxifies you, but it also keeps you full so that you don't overeat. And fiber helps to fight cravings. So whenever we have cravings, If you went back and looked at what you ate that day, it's probably low on fiber. Okay. Then in this handout, you have the recipes to help you overcome these addictions. Okay. So you have the mango cabbage salad, which I made for you the other day. Actually, I made it yesterday. You have the three bean with brown rice, which I made the first day. So these are specifically designed to help you fight cravings. Okay. And then today, okay, so then one day you are craving, cheese. I mean, you're craving something that you've got to get down to the point where you know what it is, it really is. So if I'm craving a cheeseburger, really I'm not craving protein, let's say. I'm craving the fat and salt. And if I put ketchup, then the sugar. And for the bun, I have the flour. Okay, so once you know what you're craving, then you can find then another alternative that is healthier, like the low fat garlic guacamole. So here we have guacamole that is low in fat, and then you get your fat cravings, but without overloading your body with dopamine. Okay, let's say that you're craving something crunchy. Okay, then you have the homemade bean dip and chips. That's another recipe here. Um, we have the broccoli cauliflower salad. We have the mac and cheese. I'm sure some of you will love that. And then what I'm going to show you today is this lentil veggie stew. So these are wonderful recipes that Catherine Lawrence designed for us in this for this class um, for the Food Safety Me Institute. So that's the plan for today. So let's get started. First, I will let you see Catherine talk about this. She's just brilliant, a wonderful teacher. And as she talks, I might pause the video to make comments. So let's go ahead and get started with the video. Okay, here we go. Okay, here we go.
So let's take a look at the addiction process and how our brain neuroadapts for it to keep us wanting more and more. And then we'll talk about how we can overcome this. I want you to have hope that there are solutions and strategies that can help you suppress cravings and actually change what your body is telling you what it wants to eat. Okay? So we're going to assume that we start out just healthy baby, regular level of dopamine. So what we've got on our chart are high, medium, and low levels of dopamine. And we're measuring over time across the horizontal axis. So if we start out a healthy level of dopamine, just regular level, eventually at some point, we're going to be introduced to foods that are high in fat, salt, and sugar. Maybe that's when we go to grandma's house, right? So we have these foods that are high in fat, salt, and sugar, and you can see it increases our dopamine. Oh my goodness, we're so happy. We're creating a memory. And of course, we have a desire to return. But you'll see all of these highly stimulating foods that are giving us a lot of dopamine, we can't maintain that. Our brain neuroadapts, like we've been talking about. And so then our dopamine levels drop to a regular amount of dopamine. Just to get that regular amount, we've got to have foods that are high in fat, salt, and sugar. Now, this is where most people live. Just for a regular amount of satisfaction, they've got to have a lot of fat, salt, and sugar. And every time you want to go up and get that hit of dopamine, it requires more and more. So it starts this addictive cycle for us. So maybe you decide, oh, I'm going to eat healthy, or you come to our class and you try whole foods that are not high in fat, salt, and sugar. And what happens? You experience this deficit, you see? So your dopamine level, it's not used to that. So you actually get a deficit and you have a very low level of dopamine of satisfaction when you're having foods that are low in fat, salt, and sugar. That's not satisfying. That doesn't make me happy. I don't enjoy eating that. Well, rest assured, because this is where most people quit. Rest assured, your taste buds and your brain will change. It'll neuroadapt again. And the timing is different for everyone, but it's generally between 1 and 3 weeks typically. And then what happens? Your brain adjusts, and now you come back up to a normal, healthy level of dopamine and satisfaction from foods that are low in fat, salt, and sugar. You see that? That's our goal, is to be satisfied from foods that are low in fat, salt, and sugar.
Okay. Let's just take a second here and briefly discuss what she just said. So you can see how we neuroadapt to different levels of dopamine. We can neuroadapt to high levels of dopamine, but we can also adapt to lower levels. It goes both ways. Of course, it's easier to adapt to higher levels, but once you allow your taste buds and your whole system to reset itself, like that key in a computer that you can click reset, or your phone, and start all over. Once you start that, then it can take anywhere from 1 week to 3 weeks. So that is the purpose of a lot of programs out there that you can do online or in person, that will, it's a controlled setting where you detoxify and you reset and you reboot your system. So that is what happens. That's why I made my 7-day program 7 days, because in 7 days I can show you how to do this. And many of you do adapt in 7 days. If you need a little longer, you just keep going 1 more week, and chances are that you will get to that point that Catherine is talking. So just wanted to mention that, and let's go back here to the video and continue.
And it's just a matter of changing what you eat. Don't listen to your brain. It's on the crazy train. It's constantly seeking fat, salt, and sugar, but you know better. And now you know how to stop that cycle. So what can we do? The good news is a lot. We have a lot more control and influence over our cravings than we think. So I want to give you 6 tips to help you overcome these. So first, knowing is half the battle. Just understanding when you're having something that might be high in fat or salt, that a sugar craving is probably coming. So plan ahead and be mentally ready. When I'm going out to dinner with friends or work to a restaurant, I'm mentally prepared. Okay, I will likely be having more fat and salt, and so that sugar craving is coming.
So it is important to prepare. That way you're not caught by surprise. You know that it's going to come, and then you can, you prepare to not have any dessert there. You know that some delicious fruit, once you get home or once you get to the car, it's going to satisfy that craving for sugar. So part of it is preparing. Is half the battle. It's not all of it, but at least it's half. Just knowing that when you have a lot of extra salt and fat, the sugar craving is probably coming.
Number 2, break down the craving. This one is probably the most beneficial for me. Break it down and find a healthier alternative. So for example, I'm not craving a cheeseburger because I have some kind of protein deficiency. The Western world does not have this problem. We're actually getting too much protein. I'm craving the cheeseburger because of all the dopamine I get from all that fat and salt. Oh, and then I put ketchup on it so I get a little sugar, right? But I can choose a healthier option instead. Maybe I choose a veggie burger with no cheese that's stacked with greens and tomatoes and onions and other veggies to give me nutrients. Another example, chips and queso. If you're not familiar with queso, it's melted cheese that you dip stuff in. It's delicious. I crave this chips and queso for the fat and the salt that's on the chips and the huge amount of fat and salt in the cheese as well. And don't forget about those queso morphines in there, right? These give me big dopamine hits. But I also love crunchy foods. So I can achieve a healthier version of this by slicing some whole wheat tortillas and baking them instead of frying them in oil. That way I still get that crunchy without the added fat and salt. And instead of queso, I can dip those tortilla strips into guacamole, which is going to give me healthy unsaturated fats, or even into salsa, which is loaded with this antioxidant called lycopene. So good for men. So break down your craving, see it for what it is, and you'll find that most of the time, all of your cravings really come down to wanting fat, salt, or sugar, or all three, and the dopamine release that you get from them. And finally, one other example, when I'm craving a sweet dessert, often fruit can satisfy me just as well. The hardest part, though, is making that decision to forego the dessert and just have fruit. Because a few minutes after I have the fruit, I'm totally fine and realize that I didn't need that big, salty, sweet dessert anyway. The third tip is to snack ahead of time with food that fits into both of the criteria that I'm going to discuss in 4 and 5. So if you're going out to eat to a restaurant with friends or a birthday party, any situation where you know your cravings can be triggered, snacking ahead can satisfy that part of your brain so you aren't tempted to eat as much or consume unhealthy food. I use easy bean salad recipe for this specifically. It's got a lot of fiber, a lot of nutrients in it, and I eat that ahead of time so I don't give in to those cravings when I'm at the restaurant or the event. So tip number 4 is to shoot for 40 grams of fiber on a daily basis. You'll see these cravings melt away. So that way you won't even get them in the first place. Now, fiber is only found in plant foods. It helps us to feel full. It provides that satiation, that satisfaction that we've been seeking so much. And most people only get about 10 grams of fiber a day. So they're having to fill up on foods and drinks that are artificially concentrated with fat and calories and salt that are also devoid of fiber. As an added bonus, fiber will naturally help lower your risk of cancer, diabetes, heart disease, Alzheimer's, and many other common ailments. So that's a bonus. So if you're wondering, I wonder how much fiber I'm getting. Well, for reference, 1 cup of beans has about 14 grams of fiber. 1 cup of whole grain, so I'm talking about brown rice, quinoa, steel cut oats, whole wheat, barley, rye, bulk, things like that, not processed grain. So farro and more. 1 cup of these whole grains has about 5 grams of fiber. Veggies have about 4 grams of fiber per cup, and fruit has about 3 grams per piece. So these are averages, but it will help you get an idea. So if you find yourself eating more than you feel like you should have in order to get full, do a quick fiber check. I bet your meal is lacking fiber, but is actually more calorically dense. For me, when I'm having a craving, I mentioned I have a cup of beans and I wait about 10 to 15 minutes. And that's all it takes for the craving to go away. This leads us to tip number 5. So in addition to fiber-rich foods, we want to eat more nutrient-dense foods because that's what our body's craving anyway, right? That's why we go searching in the meadow for berries and grains and foods that would sustain us. Plant foods actually have the highest nutrient density. Ironically, they've become the smallest portion on our plate nowadays, if they're there at all. So that means that because they have so many nutrients, they're filled with vitamins and minerals and enzymes that help us to be strong and healthy, but they'll also truly satisfy you. So adding more plant foods like vegetables, fruits, whole grains, beans, nuts, and seeds to your daily diet will help you stave off these cravings. Now, number 6, you can change the name. This is what I call the banana test. I like bananas, but I don't like love bananas, right? I don't love bananas like I love chocolate. So for you, you might name your test something entirely different. When I'm craving something, I ask myself, am I really hungry or am I eating for another reason? And if I am hungry, would I eat a banana? If I'm genuinely hungry, then sure, I'll have a banana. But usually I find it's not the banana that I want, and I'm actually chasing a dopamine release from something else for another reason besides hunger. So this is a good way to observe your personal patterns and identify what's triggering you. I especially notice this when I'm having a challenging day with my kids. I get more stressed out and I want to eat more. So the banana test comes in healthy there. It keeps me honest and accountable. So I'm going to turn you over to your instructor now so they can show you some delicious recipes that can fight off cravings. These recipes will be both nutrient dense and high in fiber, but also really tasty. Remember these strategies and you'll be stronger and more empowered instead of overcome by your cravings.
All right. Well, let's be real here and say that this doesn't happen overnight. Okay. It could happen during a week, during the 7-day program. It might take 2 weeks, and it seldom takes 3 weeks, but it can take 3 weeks depending on the level of addiction that you may have. So it doesn't happen overnight, but if we focus and if we really want to do it, because that's important. If you really are sick and tired of being sick and tired and of being overweight and of not feeling well, then if you really want it, you will do it. It may take a while, but you will do it. The main thing is I always say this, to never give up. Giving up is just not an option as long as we stay plant-based. Yes, we might have to have an avocado, or we might have to have some nuts and seeds or something one day because we have this craving, but at least it's plant-based, but we're not giving up on our health. So she was talking about these 6 tips. We talked about knowing is half the battle. Now, breaking down the craving, breaking the craving down is part of it also. So she was talking about, you want something crunchy. Well, instead of going to get those chips that are fried and drenched in oil and salt, you can make your own. You can buy your whole wheat tortilla or your corn tortillas, cut them in squares or in triangles, whatever you want. You can spray some water and put some, I don't know, garlic powder, onion powder. You could put some salt substitute to make it taste a little salty. And then you can use guacamole if you are really craving salt, if you're really craving fat. You see, I know this may not be the ideal. That day you may not lose weight. I don't know, but at least you're eating a healthier version of whatever it was that you wanted. You could dip those tortilla chips in salsa. Okay. The hardest thing is to make the decision and just go with it. For example, she was talking about you want something sweet that is combining this sugar and the fat and even some flour. Well, the hard part is to tell yourself, well, I'm going to have this piece of fruit first, and then we're going to wait 20 minutes and see how I feel. Most likely, 99% of the times, it goes away after you have, your brain calms down after you give it some dopamine. So getting that piece of fruit, getting that roasted sweet potato, first, and just knowing what you're craving. Number 3 was snack ahead of time. when you're going to a restaurant, when you're going to a party, it is important that, to go prepared. At some point, we will all become stronger and stronger, and we will be able to see what we have in front of us, for what it really is. So, for example, even though sometimes I get this mild desire to have cheese, I don't, when I look at cheese now, I don't see cheese. I don't. I see pus, and I see hormones, in tons of hormones, and I see, antibiotics, and I see concentrated fat that is, filling up the arteries. So it just, you get to the point where you see the food as what it really is. So until you get to that point, you can do some things like make sure that you eat some beans before you go to one of these places. Beans have this power of filling you up because of so much water that they have absorbed, and so much fiber. One of the most fiber dense foods, 14 grams per cup. That means that if you eat 3 cups of beans a day, which we usually don't recommend because the it has I forget the word. Well, anyway, if you want to type it there, you know what I mean. It just we always want to go with variety. Okay, we don't want to eat all day beans, or all day rice, or all day whatever, corn. But just so that you get an idea, 3 cups of bean has already 40 grams of fat, but just about every fruit and every vegetable and all the other grains and legumes have all of these nutrients that we need, as fiber specifically. Okay, so beans is one thing. The other thing that can really make a difference in stopping cravings is a sweet potato. Okay, so sweet potato, it is another very good food to have as a snack ahead of time. Then she talks about number 4 being shoot for 40 grams of fiber. It does fight cravings. And if you eat the way that we eat during the 7-day program, which is all whole food and plant-based, you don't even have to count grams of fiber, because most likely you're going over 40 grams, and there's nothing wrong with going 40. You may feel some discomfort if you're not used to having so much, fiber, but there's nothing really negative. Okay. So the word I was thinking about earlier was protein. We don't want to eat more than, 3 or 4 cups all the time, every day, of beans, because it's loaded with protein, and protein can damage our kidneys. And so we just want variety. That's the main thing. We want the variety. We want all of these foods to work together as a beautiful symphony. Number 5 was eat nutrient-dense foods. Well, we all know that meat and dairy, it's not nutrient-dense. Nutrient-dense is all of those wonderful vegetables and legumes and grains, beans, that are full of nutrients. Remember that we have nutrient sensors in our bodies, and so if you're eating food that is void of nutrient, your body is not sending the signal to tell your brain that it's full, and you keep eating this junk food that is void of nutrients, but you want more and more. Okay, and finally, she talks about the banana test. you could call it the apple test, you could call it the sweet potato test, but basically what she says is something that we also talk about in the 7-day program, and that is that you have a craving. Okay, I want to go out and get blank. I'm not going to say to trigger anything. Well, you're going to tell yourself, first, you're going to eat this apple, okay, or this banana or this sweet potato. First, you're going to eat that. There's no going around that. You're going to eat that first. Then you can eat the other stuff. And the rule is you're going to eat that, you're going to wait 30 minutes, and then you're going to allow yourself to indulge, okay, because that's the deal. That is the experiment. This experiment might not work. Okay, I say might because in most cases it works. But if it doesn't work, then don't do it again. Okay, if this experiment doesn't work, don't do it again. But chances are that if you do eat that apple or that banana or that whatever, like I said, sweet potato, orange, whatever it is, and wait 30 minutes, you will come to your senses, like we would say, okay? And you won't desire whatever you wanted to have. Okay, so you're going to have all of that in this wonderful handout. So you have already seen the other recipes that I made. Now we're going to take a look at this here. Okay, we're going to make the lentil veggie stew. I'm going to put here 5 stalks of celery chopped. This one is a little too big. With the Salad Master machine, everything is fast. The time is cut at least in half. So if you'd like to know how to get this, let me know. And okay, so now we need to get 1 large onion, and you want to chop it or slice it or whatever you like. I didn't have a large onion, so I have 2 medium ones. I'm going to use cone number 2 here, which is wonderful for the onion. It just cuts it in such a even way. You see, like that. All right. So let's keep going with the onion. This is a perfect meal. And I love garlic, so I always put more than what the recipe calls for. So this one said 4, I put 5, sometimes I put 6 because I just really like garlic. And besides, it has so many health benefits. Okay, so the celery stalks, 5 of them, 1 large onion, 4 cloves of garlic. Now we're going with 4 carrots. Okay, and we're going to use cone 5 for that. And here go the carrots. And you're kind of waffle style cut. Remember, you want to keep the skin on the carrots because most of the nutrients are on the skin. Wonderful source of course, fiber and water, but beta carotene, a powerful cancer fighter. So we need anything that is red, orange, it has beta carotene. 4 of these carrots. Of course, you could cut, if you're chopping them, you can cut them in any way you want. You can make them a little bit bigger. I just like this chunkiness, okay? So I'm using this cone 5, but I could have used another, or I could have just chopped it. It's just so much faster with this that I just go with it. Okay, what else? Now comes the mushrooms. So now comes the question I always get, what if I don't like mushrooms? Well, I don't know. because mushrooms are such a powerful food. And I guess you could try eggplant, you could try zucchini, maybe you might even want to put potatoes, but we're going to put about a cup and a half, okay? I'm not gonna measure because I already know what about a cup and a half is, so I'm just going by sight here. But even if I went over a little bit, and you see, it slices it really well. If I went over a little bit, I don't mind, because mushrooms have vitamin D. The only natural food that has it. You all know the vitamin D is the sun vitamin. Plus, it's not a vitamin; it's a hormone. But it has many other benefits. So anytime I can include mushrooms, like in my green mixture, for example, that I eat with almost everything, I use mushrooms. Okay, what else? So let's recap. We have the 5 stalks of celery, 1 large onion, 4 or 5 cloves of garlic, 1.5 cups of mushrooms sliced, 4 carrots cut in any way you like. And now I need 1 can of diced tomatoes. So what are we gonna do with all of this? Well, this will go in as the recipe says, it's gonna go in a 5-quart saucepan and it'll cook over medium heat, okay? So I have the pan here, and this pan has 5 cups of vegetable broth. If you don't have vegetable broth, I've done this with just water. I don't like to use vegetable broth that has a lot of sodium or any sodium added. So if I don't make it myself, then, or if I can't buy it, then I just use water. Okay, so what's missing here? Well, the red lentils. Let's go ahead and put the rinsed lentils. You just need 1 cup of red lentils, which I have here, and I'm going to rinse them. So they are rinsed. It's 1 cup of red lentils. The recipe calls for red lentils. Could you use another type? Of course you could. I don't see why not. But this one is with red lentils, a different texture, a little bit of a different flavor, and obviously some different nutrition to go with it. But I'm just going to make sure that it is all well mixed. And as I look at this, to me, I may be wrong, okay? But to me, it needs a little bit more water. So I'm going to go with my instinct and add 1 or 2 more cups of water. One, I think that'll be okay. I believe this all depends on what the texture is. What you want. I don't want it too thick, so I just added 2 extra cups of water, and we will see how it comes out. Okay, so I may be wrong, and it'll be too soupy, but it will taste very good. So the only other thing that this has, the only other ingredient is 3 tablespoons of oregano. Okay. And we have a can of diced tomatoes. If you want to get fire roasted, of course, that'll add it a little more flavor. One can there. And it calls for a can of salsa, which I don't have. So, sometimes don't worry about it. If you don't have some of the ingredients, try to look for something similar. So this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to put another can, even though that's a cup and a half. And now I'm just going to mimic a Mexican salsa by adding some salt-free fajita mix. I'm just going to add some fajita mix there. That's probably a teaspoon. A little bit of chipotle chili powder, but this is very spicy, so that's an eighth or less of a teaspoon. And then some, I happen to have, probably some cumin also, a little bit. You can see that it's little amounts because you can always add more later. And some garlic powder here. That kind of mimics salsa other than the cilantro, but I do have powder, or dry cilantro, so I'm just gonna add some of that. So because I don't have salsa, that's how I created my own salsa. Okay, so now this will go on, like medium heat or so. Yeah, probably medium heat. And it'll take anywhere from 30 to 45 minutes. At 30 minutes, I'll check and see how the lentils are doing. And then if it needs a little more, I will go for 15 more minutes. The good thing about this Salad Master pot is that it has this valve that tells me when the temperature is about 188 and 190, so that the nutrients are not destroyed, okay? But otherwise, just try to not cook your food, at high temperatures, because a lot of these nutrients are heat sensitive. And we go through a lot of trouble getting all our ingredients. We don't need to destroy them with heat and high pressure. So always try to go, even if it takes longer, try to go with lower heat so that the nutrients are not damaged. Well, I will be back in about half an hour and we'll see how it's doing. All right. Half an hour has gone by since it started boiling, and I turned it down so that the heat would not be so high. And this is what I call comfort food. Amazing. Well, let's give it a try and see how it is. I think it is done, but let's double check. Oh my goodness. Oh, well, you are going to love this. There's food that we can use to substitute for those rich foods that kept us addicted, and this is one of those foods that are high in nutrients, high in water, high in fiber, and it won't, it will not give you any of those addictive feelings that you have or had before. I hope you will try it and let me know how you like it. Well, I have to say that was a winner. You now we'll have this handout with all the recipes to help you fight food addiction. Of course, there are many others, and we have quite a few more in store for the 7-day program that starts on Saturday. But here you're going to have reminders of what we've talked about. I hope that this class, of course, we haven't talked about, in detail about everything, but that you have an idea of what addiction is like and how to fight it. So let me take 2 or 3 minutes if you have any questions, and you can type them there, or if you'd like to speak. I need to plug my computer because it's running out of power, but go ahead if you want to type any questions. All right. Any, does the Instant Pot destroy? Well, okay. I've used the Instant Pot for 10 years. Um, the pot that I used was a 5 quart or 6 quart pot. Um, I can't say that I am nutrient deficient. Okay, so I'm going to turn on my camera, but forgive me that the light now is not going to be very good. I had to unplug the light to plug my computer. Um, so, uh, yes, you want as much as, as many of the nutrients to not be damaged. Okay. I would hate for this to be a roadblock for anybody who wants to start eating healthy, to not have the right equipment. You can still turn around your health and lose weight with something like the Instant Pot. Yes, there is some cookware that is highly contaminated. Okay, so I would encourage you all, since you're going to be saving so much money really from not eating those high expensive foods that you were eating before, and maybe even going out so much and spending on prescription drugs and painkillers and things like that as your health gets better, that you would invest in some good cookware. At the time, I did the best that I could. I found the best cookware that I could find, that I thought was the best, and I invested in it a good amount of money. Later on, I found something that I think is the best of all, and so I invested again because it's my health. But some of the nutrients at high temperatures, you will lose anywhere from 70 to 95% of them. But still, you do have a lot of them. So, two things: you want to cook below the boiling point, and you want to try to not add too much pressure. Okay, so the Salad Master cookware seals the lid so that it acts as a pressure cooker, but there isn't that amount of pressure, and it never goes above the boiling point. So if that's all you have, go ahead and keep using it. Keep eating your delicious and wonderful whole food and plant-based, and have it as a goal to at some point gradually be changing some of your cookware. I've used the Instant Pot for 11 years. It was my best friend. I love it. I haven't gotten rid of it because I can't. It's like a child. Okay, so it's there, but no, I don't use it anymore. Okay. Crock pots have some of the ceramic and material that is used to make can leak into the food. There is a very simple test that you can do to test your cookware. It'll take 5 minutes or so, and you can see if it is leaking heavy metals. Heavy metals cannot be uh, disposed even with fiber, so you want to be very careful. Okay, if you want the test, send me an email. I'll tell you. It's just I don't want to make this webinar too long. Okay, I'm viewing you on YouTube. So how can I get the food addiction pamphlet since I'm not registered? Well, very good question. Yes, send me either one. Okay, let's see. Yeah, the best way is going to be to send me an email. My email is info@plantemus.com. Okay, and info@plant, PLANTEMUS.com, and tell me that you attended this program, and I'll send you the PDF that is really really wonderful. Okay, and it's been great, everybody. I teach these classes because by teaching, I keep learning and I keep reinforcing comments. I mean, I keep reinforcing, uh, you know, uh, topics and things that I need to reinforce. So I always learn. I learn from your questions as well. So thank you for attending. And remember, are the blades on the inside? The blades of the Salad Master machine, they're uh, that machine is so brilliantly designed. I don't know how they did it, but you can put your hand inside the cone and get everything out, and it doesn't cut yourself. And then on the outside, if you're not careful, you could cut, but it's not easy. And besides, it has a little container where you can put the food if you want and slice it there. So, okay, all three classes were very informative. Thank you, Gustavo. You're welcome. I love it. I love sharing this information with you all. And one more time, this is the first time, maybe the only time that I will offer the 7-day program for free or for whatever you can contribute. It's always been $300 for new participants, 150 for returning participants. This time, it is whatever you can give. There is no set amount. It could be whatever you can do now. I said it before. I said it before that I don't like for money to be an issue for health, but now I went ahead further and I decided, okay, I'm just going to do it. And so you don't have an excuse, okay? You don't. If you don't have anything, go ahead and tell me, send me an email. If you can, whatever you can contribute, it's great. This is the way that I make my income. So anything will help. And especially if you have like $1 million, I will be really happy if you could donate that, because then I can just make videos all day long, every day. Okay, well, thank you, everybody. See you on Saturday when we start the 7-day program. If you want the link to register, send me an email, or each one of the 3 sessions on YouTube, the videos in the description area below, they have the link to register for Saturday. Okay. All right. Goodbye, everyone. Been a pleasure being with you for 3 days. Bye-bye.